Nothing wakes you up at midnight like your own kid robbing you blind. I pulled into the driveway at 12:47 a.m., bone-tired from a 14-hour shift supervising the Riverside Tower project. My lower back felt like someone had driven nails through the vertebrae, and my hands smelled like concrete dust and machine oil. All I wanted was a shower, a bourbon, and 6 hours of unconsciousness before doing it all again. The front door was open, not just unlocked. Open. 6 inches of darkness spilling out onto the porch like a black tongue. I grabbed the flashlight from under my seat and got out. The autumn air bit at my face. October in Pennsylvania, cold enough to make your breath fog, warm enough that you didn't need a heavy coat yet. I approached the door slowly, listening. No sounds from inside, no footsteps, no voices, no rustling. I pushed the door wider with my boot. The beam of my flashlight swept across the living room and my stomach dropped. Ransacked. That's the word they use in cop shows, but it doesn't capture the visceral punch of seeing your home violated. The couch cushions were thrown across the floor. The TV was still on the wall, but the entertainment center below it had been gutted DVDs scattered like playing cards, drawers hanging open, cables yanked loose and dangling. The coffee table was overturned. Picture frames knocked off the mantel. I stepped inside, glass crunching under my work boots. Hello? My voice sounded strange in the stillness. Anyone here? Nothing. I moved through the house room by room, flashlight cutting through the darkness. Kitchen cabinets open, pantry ransacked, but appliances untouched. Bathroom medicine cabinet hanging open, bottles knocked into the sink. Bedroom, my dresser drawers pulled out and dumped, clothes everywhere, mattress half off the box spring. But I knew where they'd gone. I knew what they were after. The den. I walked down the short hallway, past the framed photos of better days, vacations, birthdays, graduations. My late wife Helen smiled out from behind glass, forever 43, forever healthy, forever alive. I'd taken that photo at Cape May 7 years ago. She'd been gone for 2. The den door was wide open. The built-in bookshelf on the west wall had been pulled away from its mounting. It was supposed to be anchored into the studs, a solid piece of oak craftsmanship I'd installed myself 15 years ago. Now, it leaned at a 45-degree angle, books and knickknacks spilled across the floor. Behind it, the small hidden cabinet I'd built into the wall space gaped empty. The chest was gone. I stood there staring at the empty hole like an idiot, my flashlight beam highlighting nothing but bare drywall and a few scraps of the old newspaper I'd used as backing material. My hands started shaking, not from fear, from rage. The chest had been Helen's grandmother's, an ornate wooden box with brass fittings and a heavy iron lock. It was maybe 2 feet long, a foot wide, a foot deep. Inside, I'd kept, well, what I'd kept inside was my business, or had been. I crouched down, shining the light across the floor. Footprints in the dust. Boot treads. Size 11, maybe 12. And there, on the edge of the broken cabinet door, clear as day in the beam of my flashlight fingerprints in the dust. I knew those hands. I'd held them when they were infant small. I'd taught them to throw a baseball, tie a necktie, operate a circular saw. Eric's hands. My son had robbed me. I sat down hard on the floor, my back against the wall, and let out a long breath that might have been a laugh if it wasn't so bitter. Of course it was Eric. Who else would know about the chest? Who else would know about the hidden cabinet? I'd shown it to him years ago during one of our father-son renovation projects, back when he still pretended to care about learning practical skills. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. Text message from an unknown number. Check your security camera footage. DR. I didn't have security cameras. Never felt the need for them in this neighborhood. But someone clearly thought I should know something. I pushed myself up and walked back to the living room, my mind racing. Dr. Daniel Rowe. Had to be. Dan ran Cornerstone Appraisals downtown. dealt in antiques and estate sales. We'd done some work together years back when I'd renovated his shop. Good guy, straight shooter. Why would Dan be texting me at 1 a.m. about security cameras I didn't have, unless he was trying to tell me something else? I dialed his number. It rang 4 times before he picked up. Michael. Dan's voice was low, cautious. You get my message? I don't have cameras, Dan. What's this about? Your son was in my shop tonight, around 9, with his wife. My jaw clenched. And? They wanted to know if I'd be open early tomorrow. Said they had something valuable to appraise. Showed me a photo of a wooden chest with brass fittings. Looked old. Quality piece? What did you tell them? Told them I could see them at 9 a.m. Michael? He paused. The way they were talking, the way that woman with him was smiling, I got a bad feeling. She kept saying millionaire moment and big score. Your son looked nervous. I thought you should know. You thought right. My voice sounded strange to my own ears. Flat. Cold. Thanks, Dan. You want me to? 9 a.m., you said? Yeah. I'll be there. I hung up and stood in the wreckage of my living room, staring at nothing. My son Eric, 27 years old, married for 3 years to a woman I'd never liked, drowning in debt from his gambling problem and her shopping addiction. Eric, who called me maybe once a month, and usually only when he needed money. Eric, who'd skipped his mother's funeral because he couldn't handle it, but somehow managed to show up a week later asking about her life insurance. Eric had robbed me, and he was stupid enough to take the chest straight to an appraiser in the same town where I'd lived for 30 years. I walked to the kitchen, glass crunching under my boots, and poured 3 fingers of bourbon into a coffee mug. Drank it standing at the sink, looking out the window at the dark backyard. The oak tree Helen had planted when we first bought the house was just a silhouette against the night sky, branches bare and reaching. My phone buzzed again, another text from Dan. They're bringing it in at 9 a.m. sharp, Cornerstone appraisal. Thought you should know the timing. I typed back, I'll be there. Then I poured another bourbon and sat down at the kitchen table to wait for sunrise. My son had no idea what was actually in that chest, but he was about to find out. While you're here, hit the hype button. Don't forget to subscribe and support this channel with a like. And tell us below, have you ever faced something like this? I didn't sleep. Couldn't. I spent the hours between 2 a.m. and dawn sitting at my kitchen table, drinking coffee and remembering things I'd spent years trying to forget. Eric at age 8, crying because the other kids made fun of his stutter. I'd held him and told him he was perfect. The stutter went away by 5th grade. Eric at 15, suspended for fighting. 3 boys had jumped him after school. He'd broken one kid's nose and another kid's wrist. The principal wanted expulsion. I'd argued for leniency. Eric got 2 weeks suspension instead. Eric, at 17, arrested for joyriding in a stolen car. Not his idea. Some older kids had talked him into it, gotten him drunk, handed him the keys as a test. The car belonged to a state senator's son. The charges could have been felony grand theft auto. I'd mortgaged the house to pay the lawyer who got it knocked down to misdemeanor unauthorized use. Cost me $43,000. Eric never said thank you. Eric at 24, calling me from Atlantic City at 3 a.m., crying, begging me to wire him $5,000 because he'd lost everything at the poker tables and the people he owed were serious people. I'd wired him $7,000. He'd paid off the debt and spent the extra $2,000 on more gambling within a week. Eric at 25, bringing Lana home for Sunday dinner. She'd spent the entire meal on her phone, posting photos of my rustic vintage dining room to her Instagram with comments about authentic blue-collar aesthetic. She'd called my pot roast adorably homestyle. She'd asked Helen how it felt to live so simply. Helen had smiled and said it felt just fine. That was 6 months before the cancer diagnosis. Eric, at 26, missing from the hospital the day Helen died. He showed up 4 hours later with Starbucks, asking if there was paperwork he needed to sign. And now Eric, at 27, breaking into my house and stealing the chest that held. I stopped myself. No point going down that road yet. At 6 a.m., I showered and changed into clean work clothes, jeans, steel-toe boots, flannel shirt, shaved, made myself look presentable, ate 2 pieces of toast I couldn't taste, checked my truck full tank, toolbox in the bed, everything in order. At 7:30, I drove downtown to Cornerstone Appraisals. The shop wouldn't open until 9, but I parked across the street at the diner and ordered breakfast I didn't want. Scrambled eggs and bacon and hash browns that might as well have been cardboard. I sat in the corner booth with a view of Dan's storefront and waited. The waitress, a woman named Pam, who'd served me coffee for 15 years, kept glancing at me with concern. "You okay, Michael? You look like hell." "Rough night." "Work?" "Something like that." She refilled my coffee without asking and left me alone. At 8:45, Dan pulled up in his silver Lexus and unlocked the shop. I watched him turn on the lights, move around inside, preparing for the day. At 8:52, I paid my bill, left Pam a generous tip, and walked across the street. The bell above the door chimed as I entered. Dan looked up from behind the counter, his expression carefully neutral. "Michael." "Dan." I nodded toward the back room. "You got a minute before they show up?" "Yeah. Come on." He led me through the showroom antique furniture, vintage jewelry displays, old paintings and decorative items that people sold when they cleaned out their parents' estates. The back room was part office, part workshop, part storage. Dan gestured to a chair, but I stayed standing. "Tell me everything," I said. Dan leaned against his workbench, arms crossed. He was 63, built like a retired linebacker, with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "They came in around 9 last night. Your son and his wife. She did most of the talking. Said they'd inherited a valuable chest from a relative and wanted to sell it. I asked to see it. They had photos on their phone. Looked like quality 18th century work. Oak and brass. Good condition." "What else did she say?" She was excited. Kept talking about how they'd finally caught a break, and this was their millionaire moment. Your son looked uncomfortable. Kept trying to get her to lower her voice. She ignored him. "Did they say where they got it?" Dan hesitated. "She said your son found it in his father's house. When I asked if you knew they had it, she laughed and said it was complicated family stuff." "Michael, I've known you 20 years. When she said that, my gut told me something was wrong." "Your gut was right." "You want me to call the cops?" "No." The word came out harder than I intended. "I want you to proceed exactly as planned. Appraise the chest like you would any other item. Open it. See what's inside. Let them react. I'll be here watching." "You sure?" "Positive." Dan studied my face for a long moment, then nodded. "There's a storage closet off the showroom. You can watch through the door. I'll make sure they're positioned so you have a clear view." "Thanks, Dan." "Michael," he paused. "Whatever's in that chest, whatever's about to happen, you staying in control?" I met his eyes. "Don't worry. I'm not going to do anything stupid." "That's not what I asked." "I'm staying in control." Dan nodded slowly. "All right, get in position. They'll be here any minute." I moved to the storage closet, a narrow space filled with bubble wrap and packing materials. Dan left the door cracked 2 inches, enough to see and hear, not enough to be obvious. I had a clear view of the appraisal counter and the area around it. At 8:58 a.m., the bell above the door chimed. Eric walked in carrying the chest. I hadn't seen my son in 4 months. He looked thinner than I remembered, his face gaunt under 3 days of stubble. He wore expensive sneakers and a designer jacket that probably cost $600, money he didn't have, charged to credit cards he couldn't pay. His dark hair needed cutting. His eyes were shadowed. Lana walked in behind him, and everything about her screamed Instagram influencer. Athleisure wear in trendy pastels, perfect makeup, long blonde hair in an artfully messy ponytail. She carried a designer purse that cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. Her smile was bright and predatory. "Good morning." Her voice was cheerful, performative. "We're here for our 9 o'clock appointment?" Dan moved behind the counter, professional and courteous. "Of course. You must be the couple who called about the chest. I'm Daniel Rowe." "Lana Hawthorne." She extended a manicured hand. "This is my husband, Eric." Eric set the chest on the counter carefully. He looked nervous, his hands shaking slightly. He didn't make eye contact with Dan. "Beautiful piece," Dan said, examining the exterior. 18th century craftsmanship, if I'm not mistaken. Oak with brass fittings. The lockwork is particularly fine. "It's worth a lot, right?" Lana leaned forward eagerly. "Like, we're talking serious money? Let me examine it properly first, may I?" "Oh my God, yes!" Lana pulled out her phone. "I'm going to record this. Our big moment." She started filming. Eric shifted uncomfortably. "Lana, maybe." "Shush! This is huge." She held the phone up, narrating to her future audience. "Okay, guys, this is it. The moment we've been waiting for. Opening the treasure chest that's going to change our lives forever." Dan produced a small toolkit and began working on the lock. It was a good lock, old-fashioned but solid. It took him 3 minutes of careful manipulation to get it open. Eric watched with growing tension, his hands gripping the edge of the counter. "There we go," Dan said quietly. He glanced at the storage closet, a quick flick of his eyes that lasted less than a second. Then he lifted the lid. The chest opened with a creak of old hinges. Lana gasped. Then her gasp turned into confused silence. Eric leaned forward, staring. His face went from anxious anticipation to shock to complete, utter confusion in the space of 3 seconds. I watched from the darkness of the storage closet, my jaw tight, my hands steady. Inside the chest was exactly what I'd left there, worthless scrap metal and decorative paperweights, chunks of painted lead, brass-plated steel pieces from an old hardware store display, shiny decorative river rocks I'd collected from a landscaping company's dumpster, everything carefully arranged, everything heavy, everything designed to make the chest feel like it contained something valuable. But not one genuine item, not one real piece of gold, not one actual gemstone, nothing but trash disguised as treasure. Lana's face went white, then red. What is this?" Dan picked up one of the pieces, examining it with professional detachment. "Appears to be decorative scrap metal. Brass-plated steel. This piece here looks like an old paperweight. These are painted lead ingots, probably from a vintage workshop or store display. Interesting as collectibles, perhaps, but not valuable. Might get $20, $30 for the whole lot at a flea market." "No." Lana grabbed his arm. "No, that's not right. This is supposed to be gold. And jewelry. There was supposed to be millions." Eric just stared into the chest, his hands trembling. "Dad said it was worth, he always said." "Your father told you what was in this chest?" Dan's voice was carefully neutral. "No, but..." Eric looked up, confused and desperate. "But everyone knew. Family stories. My grandmother told me. She said Grandma Rose's chest had the family fortune in it. $17.5 million worth of gold and jewelry." "I'm sorry," Dan said gently, "but what's in this chest isn't worth $1,700, let alone $17 million. "Where's the gold?" Lana's voice was rising, sharp with fury. "Where is it? What did you do with it?" "Ma'am, I didn't do anything. This is what was in the chest when we opened it." "No!" Lana slammed her hand on the counter. "No, this is wrong. Eric, your father, he must have switched it. He must have taken the real stuff out." Eric looked like he was going to be sick. "But how could he? When would he?" "He knew." Lana spun toward her husband. "He knew we were going to take it. He must have known and he switched it out. I don't think... Oh my God, we're screwed. We're completely screwed." Lana's perfect influencer composure was cracking. We spent all that money planning for this. We quit the apartment lease. I told my sponsors we were taking a break because we were coming into money. You told the casino guys you'd pay them back this week. Eric's face went even paler. Lana, what are we going to do? She whirled back to Dan. You're lying. You have to be lying. This has to be worth something. Ma'am, I understand you're disappointed, but I can't change what's in front of us. If you'd like a second opinion— We don't have time for a second opinion. Lana was almost screaming now. We needed this money. We needed it now. I watched my son stand there, useless and gutted, while his wife spiraled into hysterics. He looked smaller than I'd ever seen him, defeated, lost, good. I pushed the storage closet door open and stepped out into the showroom. Oh, I said, my voice flat and cold. Were you expecting treasure? That's adorable. 3 heads turned toward me. Dan's expression remained neutral. Lana's mouth fell open. Eric looked like he'd seen a ghost. Dad. Hi, son. I walked toward the counter slowly, deliberately. Funny seeing you here. With my chest, the one you stole from my house last night. I didn't— It's not— Eric's words tumbled over themselves. I was going to tell you— Tell me what? That you broke into my home? That you destroyed my den looking for something that belonged to your mother's grandmother? That you were going to sell family heirlooms without even asking? I stopped 3 feet from the counter. Or were you going to tell me that you're a thief? We needed the money. Lana found her voice, shrill and defensive. You've been hoarding it for years while we struggle. It's not fair. Hoarding. I repeated the word slowly. Interesting choice. You live in that house alone. Lana stepped toward me, her phone still recording in her shaking hand. You have all that money hidden away and you won't help your own son. What kind of father does that? The kind who already bailed his son out of criminal charges when he was 17. My voice didn't rise, but it cut. The kind who paid off 5-figure gambling debts. The kind who gave him $7,000 at 3 a.m. because he was stupid enough to lose everything in Atlantic City. That kind of father. Eric flinched. Dad, how much do you owe right now, Eric? Current tally. How much? He didn't answer. 47,000, Lana said. Give or take, and that's not counting the credit cards. Jesus Christ, I muttered. So yes, we needed this. Lana gestured at the chest. And you did something to it. You switched out the real stuff. Where is it? Where's the actual treasure? I looked at my son, really looked at him, saw the same weak jaw, the same frightened eyes that had stared up at me when he was 8 years old and being bullied, when he was 17 and facing charges, when he was 24 and broke and desperate. I'd saved him every time. Not anymore. There is no treasure, I said quietly. The words hung in the air. You're lying, Lana said. No. I kept my eyes on Eric. I'm not. There never was any gold. There never was any jewelry. Grandma Rose's chest was just a chest. The family fortune was just a story, something she used to tell to make herself feel important after Grandpa died broke. But— Eric's voice was small. But you kept it hidden. You kept it locked away. Because it was your mother's. My throat tightened, but I kept my voice steady. Because Helen loved that chest. Because it was one of the few things she had from her grandmother. I kept it safe because it mattered to her. Not because there was anything valuable inside. Lana's face twisted. You mean we destroyed everything for a box of garbage? You destroyed everything, I said. Because you're a thief and he's a coward. Screw you. Lana lunged forward, her perfectly manicured finger jabbing toward my face. Screw you and your high and mighty act. You've been holding out on us for years, sitting in that house with all your money. What money? I spread my hands. I'm a construction supervisor. I make $73,000 a year. I have a mortgage, a truck payment, and credit card debt from your husband's multiple disasters. Where exactly is this fortune you think I'm hiding?" She stared at me, breathing hard. "We're going to ruin you," she said finally. "We're going to tell everyone what kind of person you really are. I have followers, thousands of them. They'll believe me." "Go ahead." I picked up the chest lid and closed it with a soft thud. "I'm sure your followers will be fascinated by the story of how you robbed your father-in-law and found out you're an idiot." "We're family!" Eric's voice cracked. "You're supposed to help family." "I did help you." I turned to face him fully. "For 27 years I helped you. I'm done." "Dad, please, no." I picked up the chest. It was heavy, familiar in my hands. Helen's grandmother's chest. The last piece of her history. "You broke into my home. You destroyed my property. You stole from me. You planned to sell everything without even asking. And you're not sorry you did it. You're sorry you didn't get rich from it." I looked at Dan. "I'm taking this home. That okay with you?" "It's your property," Dan said quietly. "Do what you want with it." I walked toward the door. Behind me, Lana started shouting, "This isn't over, you hear me? This isn't over. We'll sue you, we'll—" I stopped at the door and turned back. Eric was slumped against the counter, his head in his hands. Lana was red-faced and furious, her phone clutched tight enough, her knuckles were white. "One more thing," I said. "If either of you come near my house again, I'm calling the police. I have evidence of the break-in. I have photos of the damage. I have Dan here as a witness that you tried to sell stolen property. You want to push this, we can push it. But I promise you, you won't like where it ends up." Lana opened her mouth. I raised a hand. "I'm not done. You want to post about this on your Instagram? Go ahead. Put up the video you just took. Explain to your thousands of followers how you stole from an old man and found trash. See how many sponsors stick around for that story." Her mouth snapped shut. I looked at Eric one last time. "You made your choice, son. Now live with it." Then I walked out, the chest heavy in my arms, the morning sun bright and cold on my face. I loaded the chest into my truck, slid behind the wheel, and sat there for a moment, my hands on the steering wheel, staring at nothing. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "You should check your email. Might want to see what your daughter-in-law has been saying about you." VL, Victor Larkin. My old coworker from the days before I made supervisor. Victor, who'd worked beside me for 15 years, who'd helped me rebuild my deck after Helen died, who'd shown up at the funeral when Eric hadn't. I pulled up my email on my phone. The first message was from Victor, sent 20 minutes ago. The subject line read, "Thought you should see this." Inside was a series of screenshots. Group chat messages, from Lana's phone to 6 of her friends. OMG, Eric's dad is such a hoarder, living in that ancient house like he's broke when everyone knows he's loaded. His wife died and left him everything and he won't give Eric a cent? Like WTF? I swear, if we could just get our hands on that treasure chest he keeps hidden, we could finally get out of debt. Eric's too scared to just take it, though. Such a wimp sometimes, lol. We're going to rob him tonight. Eric doesn't know yet, but I'm going to convince him. His dad doesn't deserve it anyway. Old people should share wealth with their kids. That's like the point of being old. The messages went on. Planning, scheming, mocking me, mocking my house, my job, my life. The last message was sent at 11:47 p.m. last night, 3 hours after they'd broken into my house. Got it. We're going to be rich. Finally. Everything's going to change tomorrow. I sat in my truck reading through the messages twice, 3 times, feeling something cold and hard settle in my chest where my heart used to be. Victor had sent one more text after the email. "Call me when you're ready. I have your back." I started the truck and drove home. Time to stop being a nice man. Saturday morning came cold and clear, the kind of October day where you could see your breath and the sky was painfully blue. I met Victor at the storage facility at 5:52 a.m. He pulled up in his extended bed Ford, the kind of truck you used for serious hauling, and climbed out wearing work clothes and a wary expression. Mike. Victor. Thanks for coming. No problem. He looked at the rows of storage units stretching back into the dim morning. So what are we doing here? Following them. Following who? Eric and Lana. They've been stalking me. Figured out my patterns. Yesterday I noticed them parked 2 blocks from my house, watching, so today I gave them something to watch. Victor's eyebrows rose. You led them here. They think I'm moving the real treasure to a secure location. They're probably parked out on the access road right now, trying to stay out of sight. And there is no real treasure. Nope. So what's in the unit? I pulled out the key. Come see. We walked down the long corridor of identical orange doors until we reached Unit 47. I unlocked the padlock and rolled up the door. Inside was mostly empty space. I'd rented this unit years ago for overflow storage from job sites, but it hadn't been used in months. Except for what I'd brought here yesterday. In the back corner sat a heavy contractor-grade metal mesh cage on wheels, the kind construction sites use to store tools and equipment. It was 6 feet tall, 4 feet wide, 4 feet deep. The mesh was thick gauge steel, the lock was commercial quality, and it was currently blocking the only path to the back of the storage unit. You set a trap, Victor said slowly. Not a trap, a lesson. What kind of lesson involves locking people in cages? Nobody's getting locked in a cage. I'm creating a scenario. Eric and Lana think I'm hiding the treasure here. When they break in, and they will break in, they're going to try to get to the back of the unit. To do that, they'll have to go through this corridor I've created. I gestured at the space. I'd arranged the cage and some storage shelves to form a narrow path. Once they're in position, I'll let them know I'm here. They'll panic, try to run, and they'll find out the corridor is harder to navigate when you're scared. You're going to confront them in a storage unit. I'm going to have a conversation with them, in a controlled environment, where they can't run away, where there are no witnesses except you, where they'll finally have to listen to what I have to say. Victor studied my face. You know this is crazy, right? Maybe. They could call the cops. And tell them what? That they broke into a storage unit looking for stolen property and the owner showed up? They won't call the cops. You sure about that? Positive. Lana's terrified of anything that might hurt her reputation. Eric's terrified of the casino debt collectors. The last thing either of them wants is police involvement. Victor was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. All right, what do you need me to do? Park your truck where they can't see it. Wait 30 minutes. Then come in here and stand at the entrance. Don't say anything. Just be visible. Your job is to make sure they understand this isn't a conversation they can weasel out of. Intimidation factor. Exactly. And if things go south? They won't. But if they do, you call the police and tell them there's a break-in in progress. Mike, trust me. He looked at me for a long moment, then sighed. You've always been the reasonable one. I hope you know what you're doing. So do I. Victor drove his truck around to the back entrance of the facility, where it wouldn't be visible from the access road. I stayed in the unit, positioning myself behind a stack of old drywall sheets, where I could see the door but wouldn't be immediately visible to anyone entering. Then I waited. 23 minutes later, I heard voices outside. Are you sure this is it? Lana's whisper carried clearly in the morning quiet. Number 47. That's what we saw him go into yesterday. What if he's still here? His truck's gone. I checked the parking lot. Come on, we don't have much time. I heard them working on the padlock. They weren't subtle about it. After 2 minutes of rattling and cursing, there was a sharp snap bolt cutters, probably, and the lock clattered to the ground. The door rolled up with a screech of metal on metal. Eric and Lana stood silhouetted against the morning light. Eric held a crowbar. Lana held her phone, already recording. "Oh my God," Lana whispered. "Look at all this space. He's definitely hiding something here." They stepped inside. Eric moved cautiously, the crowbar raised like a weapon. Lana swept her phone around, filming everything. "There," Eric pointed. "That cage. Why would he have a cage in here?" "Maybe that's where he keeps it." Lana's voice was eager, greedy. "Can you get it open?" "It's locked." "So break the lock." They moved deeper into the unit, past my hiding spot, focused entirely on the cage. Eric went right up to it and started examining the commercial-grade padlock. "This is industrial. I'm not getting through this with a crowbar." "Try. We didn't come all this way to—" "Actually," I said, stepping out from behind the drywall, "you came all this way to commit breaking and entering." They spun around. Lana screamed. Eric swung the crowbar up defensively. "Dad! What? How?" Surprise. I moved to position myself between them and the exit, not blocking it, but close enough that they'd have to go around me. "Funny story. This is my storage unit. I paid for it. I have the rental agreement with my name on it. So when you cut my padlock and broke in, you committed a crime." "We didn't." Lana's phone was still recording, shaking in her hand. "We thought—" "You thought you'd rob me again. How's that working out for you?" Eric's face was pale. "We weren't going to take anything. We were just looking." "Looking for what?" "For—" He glanced at Lana. For the treasure," Lana said defiantly. "For what you owe us. For what you've been hiding while your own son drowns in debt." "I don't owe you anything." "Yes, you do." Her voice went shrill. "Families help each other. That's what families do." "Really?" I took a step closer. Eric raised the crowbar higher. I ignored it. "Is that what families do, Lana? Because from where I stand, families don't steal from each other. Families don't break into each other's homes. Families don't plan robberies in group chats where they mock the person they're planning to steal from." Her face went white. "How did you—" "I know about the group chat. I've read every message. I know this whole thing was your idea. I know you've been planning it for months. I know you convinced Eric that I owe him something, that I've been hoarding wealth while you two suffer." "Because you have been." "Show me the wealth, Lana." I spread my arms. "Show me this fortune I'm supposedly hoarding. You've been in my house. You've been through my files. You've seen my tax returns, don't lie. I know you went through my desk. So tell me, where's all this money?" She didn't answer. "I make $73,000 a year. I have a mortgage that costs me $1,800 a month. I have a truck payment. I have credit card debt from the last 3 times I bailed out your husband. Where exactly is this treasure you think I'm hiding?" "There has to be—" Eric's voice cracked. "Everyone always said, Grandma said—" Grandma Rose told stories. That's all they were, stories. There was no fortune, there never was. That chest you stole? It was just a box with sentimental value. The treasure inside was trash I put there years ago to give the box some weight, so it would feel like it had something valuable in it. It was a memorial to your mother, that's all." Lana's expression shifted from fear to fury. "You mean we destroyed everything for nothing? You destroyed everything because you're thieves. We needed that money." "No. You needed to learn to live within your means. You needed to stop buying designer clothes on credit. You needed to stop gambling. You needed to grow up." Eric was crying now, silent tears running down his face. The crowbar drooped in his hands. "Dad, please. The people I owe, they're going to hurt me. They said Friday. That's yesterday. I'm out of time." "Then you'd better figure something out." "You're my father. You have to help me." "No," I said. "I don't." Behind me, I heard footsteps. Victor appeared in the doorway, backlit by the morning sun, his silhouette broad and solid. He didn't say anything, just stood there, arms crossed. Eric saw him and went even paler. "Who's that?" "A friend. He's here to make sure this conversation stays civil. This is kidnapping. Lana's voice went high and desperate. You're holding us here against our will. The door's right there. I gestured past Victor. Leave any time you want. But if you leave now, without hearing what I have to say, I'm going straight to the police with evidence of both break-ins, the house and the storage unit. I'll press charges. I'll make sure it sticks. You'll both have criminal records. How do you think that'll play with your Instagram sponsors, Lana? She stared at me, breathing hard. Or, I continued, you can shut up and listen for 5 minutes. Your choice. Eric set down the crowbar with a clatter. We'll listen. I looked at both of them, my son and his wife, cornered and desperate and finally out of options. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to stop following me. You're going to stop threatening me. You're going to stop posting about me on social media. You're going to leave me alone completely. But I'm not done. You're also going to sit down with your creditors and work out payment plans. Real plans. Not fantasies about treasure chests. You're going to sell everything you don't need. You're going to move to an apartment you can actually afford. You're going to stop living like influencers and start living like the broke 20-somethings you actually are. We can't, Lana started. Yes, you can. You just don't want to. There's a difference. What about the casino debt? Eric's voice was small. That's your problem, not mine. Dad, you made these choices, Eric. You gambled money you didn't have. You married someone who encouraged your worst impulses. You listened when she told you to steal from me. You chose all of this. Now you get to live with the consequences. Lana's phone was still recording. She held it up between us like a shield. I'm getting all of this. Everything you're saying. You're abandoning your son, refusing to help him when he's in danger. What kind of father does that? The kind who's been enabling his son for 27 years and finally realized it wasn't helping. The kind who understands that sometimes people need to hit bottom before they'll change. The kind who loves his son enough to let him fail. That's not love, she spat. That's cruelty. Maybe, but it's the only thing left I haven't tried. Eric sank down onto the concrete floor, his back against the mesh cage, his head in his hands. I'm sorry, he whispered. Dad, I'm so sorry. For all of it. For everything. I didn't know what else to do. You could have asked for help instead of stealing. You would have said no. You don't know that. Yes, I do. You always... He looked up, his face red and wet. You always made me feel like I had to earn it. Earn your help. Earn your respect. Prove I wasn't a screw-up. But I am a screw-up. I always have been. And you knew it. You never believed in me. The words hit like a punch. I stood there, staring at my son, feeling something crack open in my chest. That's not true, I said quietly. Yes, it is. Ever since I was a kid, you've been waiting for me to fail. Expecting it. And I keep proving you right. Eric, I'm exactly what you always thought I'd be. A failure, a disappointment, a thief. The storage unit was silent, except for the sound of Eric crying and Lana's phone recording everything. Victor shifted in the doorway but didn't speak. I crouched down in front of my son, my knees protesting. You want to know what I really think? Eric didn't look up. I think you're right. You are a screw-up. You make terrible decisions. You're weak and you're cowardly, and you let other people... I glanced at Lana. Manipulate you into doing things you know are wrong. Eric flinched. But I also think you could be better. I think somewhere under all this weakness and self-pity and entitlement, there's a person who could make good choices, could take responsibility, could be someone your mother would have been proud of. Yeah, and you weren't there when she died because you were too busy feeling sorry for yourself, just like you're doing right now. He looked up at me finally, his eyes red. I can't be what you want me to be. I don't want you to be anything except honest and responsible And decent. That's not a high bar, Eric. It is for me. I stood up, my knees cracking. Then I guess you'll keep failing. I looked at Victor. We're done here. Victor nodded and stepped aside from the doorway. Go home, I said to Eric and Lana. Figure out your lives. Leave me out of it. I walked past them, past Victor, out into the cold morning air. Behind me, I heard Lana helping Eric to his feet, heard them gathering their things. The crowbar clattered again. Lana was saying something I couldn't make out, her voice low and urgent. Victor followed me to my truck. That was rough. Yeah? You think it'll work? Think they'll actually leave you alone? No, I said honestly. I think Lana's too desperate and Eric's too weak. I think they'll try something else. Maybe something worse. So what was the point? The point was to let them know I see them. Really see them. Not as victims. Not as my son and daughter-in-law. As exactly what they are, thieves and liars who got caught. And now I wait to see what they do next. We stood by my truck, watching the sun climb higher. Inside the storage unit, I could hear Eric and Lana arguing in harsh whispers. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. You should check your house. I think they did something. DR. I showed Victor the message. Dan Rowe, the appraiser. What do you think he means? Only one way to find out. I got in my truck and drove home fast, Victor following in his Ford. The whole way my mind was racing. What could they have done? When? Yesterday, maybe? While I'd been at work? I pulled into my driveway. The house looked normal from the outside. No broken windows, no obvious damage. I unlocked the front door and stepped inside. The smell hit me first. Gasoline. Faint but unmistakable. Victor came in behind me and swore under his breath. Mike! I smell it. We moved through the house carefully. Found it in the den. Someone and I knew exactly who had poured gasoline along the baseboards, soaked the carpet, saturated the built-in bookshelf that I'd reinstalled yesterday. But they hadn't lit it, hadn't followed through. The house was intact, just reeking of fuel. There was a note taped to the wall, written in Lana's looping handwriting. You could lose everything, too. Think about that. Victor pulled out his phone. I'm calling the police. Wait. Mike, this is arson. Attempted arson. Terrorist threats. This is serious. I know. So let me call it in. I looked around the den, at the gasoline stains, at the note, at the evidence of pure, desperate malice. And I made a decision. No police. Not yet. You're crazy. Probably. But if we involve the cops now, this goes to court. Takes months, maybe years. And while it's working through the system, they're still out there, still desperate, still dangerous. So what do you want to do? I pulled out my phone and took photos of everything. The gasoline stains, the note, the damage. Documented it all carefully. I want to finish this, I said. My way. Your way involves what exactly? I looked at the note again. You could lose everything too. Everything they have, I said slowly. They can't afford. Their apartment, their car, their lifestyle. It's all built on debt and credit, and the idea that money will eventually appear to save them. What if it doesn't? What if instead of money appearing, things start disappearing? I don't follow. Their landlord, their car loan company, their creditors. What if they all got information about Eric and Lana's real financial situation? What if their sponsors found out Lana's been buying fake followers? What if Eric's casino debt collectors found out exactly where he lives and works? Victor stared at me. You want to destroy them. I want them to face reality. There's a difference. Is there? I didn't answer. Monday morning I started making calls. The first one went to Martin Properties, the company that managed Eric and Lana's apartment building. I identified myself as Michael Hawthorne, father of Eric Hawthorne, current tenant of Unit 412. I'm calling to inform you that my son is 4 months behind on rent and has been engaging in illegal activities on the premises, I said calmly. I have reason to believe he's subletting the apartment without permission, running an unlicensed business from the unit, and has recently been involved in theft and property damage. I thought you should know before you pursue eviction proceedings. The property manager, a woman named Diane, who sounded tired, said she'd look into it. I thanked her and hung up. The second call went to Prestige Auto Finance, the company holding the loan on Eric's Audi. I explained that the primary borrower was in default on multiple debts, had recently committed crimes that would likely result in criminal charges, and was at high risk of fleeing the area. I suggested they might want to consider repossession sooner rather than later. The finance company rep thanked me for the information and said they'd review the account. The third call was harder. I didn't know exactly who Eric owed the $47,000 to, but I knew it was casino debt from Atlantic City, and I knew how those operations worked. They had people, collectors, enforcers. I found a number for a consulting service that handled debt recovery in the Atlantic City area, the kind of service that worked in gray areas of the law, the kind Eric was probably dealing with. The man who answered spoke with a thick South Jersey accent. Yeah? I'm calling about a debt, $47,000 owed by Eric Hawthorne. Who's this? His father. I'm calling to inform you that Eric is currently at 2847 Morrison Avenue, apartment 412 in Harrisburg. He's employed part-time at a gym called FitCore, and he drives a black Audi with the license plate. I read off the number I'd memorized from seeing it parked at my house. I understand he owes you money. I'm not paying it. But I wanted to make sure you knew where to find him. There was a long pause. You're ratting out your own kid? I'm providing information about a debtor. What you do with it is your business. Why? Because he needs to learn that actions have consequences, and because I'm done protecting him from the choices he makes. Another pause. That's cold, man. Yes, I agreed. It is. I hung up. The fourth call went to FitCore, the gym where Eric worked part-time as a personal trainer. I asked to speak with the manager. This is Jason. Jason, my name is Michael Hawthorne. My son Eric works for you. I need to inform you that he's currently involved in legal troubles including theft, property damage, and harassment. I thought you should know before it impacts your business. What kind of legal troubles? The kind where police might show up asking questions. The kind where clients might find out their trainer is facing criminal charges. I'm telling you now so you can make informed decisions about his employment. Are you serious? Completely. Check with your legal counsel if you want verification. The police reports will be filed this week. I hung up before he could ask more questions. The fifth call went to 3 of Lana's biggest Instagram sponsors, a protein supplement company, an athleisure brand, and a meal prep service. To each one, I sent a detailed email with the subject line, Information about sponsored athlete Lana Hawthorne. The email contained links to Lana's group chat screenshots, the ones Victor had sent me. Examples of her buying fake followers, easy to prove with basic analytics tools, and documentation that she'd been planning to take a break from content creation right after getting paid for her most recent sponsored posts. Essentially taking their money and running. I sent the emails from a burner account and didn't expect responses. The point wasn't dialogue, the point was damage. By the time I finished, it was noon. I sat at my kitchen table staring at my phone, feeling something cold and hard settle in my stomach where my conscience used to be. Victor had been right. This was cruel, calculated. I was systematically destroying my son's life, and I wasn't going to stop. My phone rang. Eric's number. I considered not answering. Then I picked up. What? Dad. His voice was shaking. Dad, what did you do? I don't know what you mean. The apartment manager just showed up with an eviction notice. We have 72 hours to vacate. You were already 4 months behind on rent. Sounds like they were doing you a favor by not evicting you sooner. She said you called them, that you told them I was doing illegal things. Were you? That's not... He made a choked sound. Dad, this is our home. It's an apartment you can't afford. And the car, the finance company just called and said they're sending a repo truck. How did they? You're in default on multiple debts. They have a right to protect their assets. You called them. You're destroying everything. No, Eric, you destroyed everything when you broke into my house. I'm just making sure reality catches up with you. You can't do this. Watch me. I'm your son. Yes, I said quietly. You are. And for 27 years, I protected you from reality. I saved you from consequences. I gave you money and second chances and the benefit of the doubt, and you repaid me by robbing me, threatening me, and pouring gasoline in my house. Silence. You didn't think I'd find that? I asked. The note? The gasoline? You really thought you could threaten me with burning down my house and I'd just let it go? Lana was upset we weren't really going to. Doesn't matter. You threatened me. You escalated this, so now I'm escalating back. Please. His voice cracked. Dad, please, the people I owe money to, they called this morning. They know where I live now. They're coming tomorrow. If I don't pay them, then you'd better figure out how to pay them. I don't have the money. Not my problem. You're going to let them hurt me? I closed my eyes, saw Eric at 8 years old crying because of bullies, saw him at 17 terrified because of the stolen car, saw him at 24 desperate and crying in Atlantic City, saw him at 27 stealing from me in the middle of the night. Yes, I said. I'm going to let them hurt you. He made a sound that might have been a sob. One more thing, I said. Lana's going to lose her sponsors, probably already has. I sent them information about her fake followers and her plan to take their money and run. She's done as an influencer. You're destroying us. You destroyed yourselves. I'm just helping reality along. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I set the phone down and sat there, staring at nothing, feeling the weight of what I'd just done. The phone rang again. Lana this time. I answered. You bastard! She was screaming. You absolute bastard! Do you know what you've done? Yes. My sponsors dropped me, all of them. Do you know how long it took to build those relationships? I imagine it took about as long as it took to buy 40,000 fake followers. How did you? Lana, you're not as smart as you think you are. And the internet never forgets. Those screenshots of your group chat, the ones where you plan to rob me, those are already circulating. Your circle isn't very loyal, turns out. One of them shared everything with her cousin who shared it with me, and I shared it with your sponsors. I'll sue you. For what? Telling the truth? Good luck with that. We're going to be homeless. Do you understand that? Homeless. Then I suggest you find a cheaper place to live. Maybe something you can actually afford. I hate you. I hope you. I hung up. The phone rang again immediately. I declined the call. It rang again. Declined. Again. Declined. After the 5th call, I blocked both their numbers. Then I sat in my kitchen, in the house I'd lived in for 30 years, surrounded by the smell of gasoline and the wreckage of my relationship with my only child, and felt absolutely nothing. The rest of Monday passed in a blur. I cleaned the gasoline-soaked carpet in the den, opened all the windows to air out the house, documented everything for potential insurance claims, called a professional cleaning company to deal with the chemical residue, called Brenda Morrison to update her on the escalation and the new evidence. Michael, she said carefully, you need to file a police report about the attempted arson. I will, when I'm ready. When you're ready. Michael, this is serious. They threatened to burn down your house. They poured gasoline and left a note, but they didn't light it. That shows hesitation, uncertainty. They wanted to scare me, not actually hurt me. That's still a crime? I know, and I'll report it, eventually. But right now, I have leverage. If I go to the police now, everything becomes official. Court dates, lawyers, restraining orders. It'll drag on for months. I want this finished. What does finished mean to you? I didn't have an answer for that. Tuesday morning, Victor called. You see the news? What news? Check the local section. Story about a repo truck getting vandalized outside an apartment complex on Morrison Avenue. Slashed tires, broken windows. Happened last night. I pulled up the news site on my laptop. Found the story. 2 photos, one of a damaged repo truck, one of police at the scene. The article mentioned that the truck had been there to repossess a vehicle when it was attacked. No arrests yet. They fought back, I said. Looks like it. Won't help them. The finance company will just send another truck. Mike, this is getting out of control. No, this is exactly where it needs to be. They're panicking, making mistakes, getting desperate. And when desperate people make mistakes, people get hurt. Not my problem. It is your problem. They're your son. Not anymore. Victor was silent for a long moment. I don't think I can help you with this anymore, Mike. This isn't justice. It's revenge. And it's turning you into someone I don't recognize. Maybe that's who I always was. Maybe I was just better at hiding it. I don't believe that. Then you don't know me as well as you thought. He sighed. If you need me, call. But I'm not going to help you destroy your own kid. Fair enough. He hung up. I sat alone in my kitchen and realized I didn't care that Victor was backing out. Didn't care that I was alone in this. Didn't care about anything except seeing this through to the end. Wednesday morning, I got a call from Dan Rowe. Michael, you need to see something. What? Your son and his wife were here, at my shop, last night after closing. I have them on security camera trying to break in through the back door. Did they succeed? No. Alarm went off and they ran. But Mike, they're escalating. Whatever you did to them, it's making things worse. Good. Good? Mike, they're going to hurt themselves or someone else at this rate. Then they'll learn an even harder lesson. This isn't like you. Everyone keeps saying that. Maybe everyone's wrong about who I am. I hung up. Thursday morning, the text messages started. From numbers I didn't recognize. Short, desperate messages. Dad, please. We're scared. They came to the apartment. Eric's hurt. Please call. We'll do anything. I deleted them without responding. Thursday evening, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw Lana standing on my porch. Alone. She looked terrible, no makeup, hair unwashed, wearing sweatpants and a stained t-shirt. Her eyes were red and swollen. I opened the door but left the screen door locked between us. Michael? Her voice was hoarse. Please, can we talk? No. Please, just 5 minutes. I'm begging you. Where's Eric? In the car, he's hurt. The casino people, they came yesterday. They broke his hand. 3 fingers. He can't work, can't drive, can't... Her voice cracked. Please, we lost everything. The apartment, the car, my sponsors, everything. We have nowhere to go. Not my problem. You're his father. And he's a thief. Seems like a fair trade to me. We were wrong, okay? We were wrong. We shouldn't have taken the chest. We shouldn't have broken in. We were desperate and stupid and wrong. Yes, you were. She stared at me through the screen door, tears running down her face. You really don't care. You actually don't care if your son lives or dies. Oh, I care, I said. I care that he learns his lesson. I care that he understands what happens when you steal from people. I care that he never ever forgets the consequences of his choices. He's learned. We've both learned. Haven't we suffered enough? Suffered. You've been inconvenienced. You've lost things you never should have had in the first place. You've faced consequences that most people face every day. That's not suffering. That's reality. What do you want from us? Nothing. I want nothing from you. I want you to go away and never contact me again. I want you to figure out your own lives without dragging me into it. That's what I want. You're a monster. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just a father who finally stopped enabling his son's self-destruction. She turned and walked back to their car. Not the Audi. That was gone. Some beat-up Honda with a cracked windshield. Eric sat in the passenger seat, his right hand wrapped in a dirty bandage. He looked up at the house but didn't get out. I watched them drive away, closed the door, went back to my kitchen and poured a bourbon I didn't drink. Sat there in the dark, staring at nothing. Friday morning I woke up to pounding on my door. Not knocking, pounding, like someone was trying to break through. I grabbed my phone and got up. 6:42 a.m., still dark outside. The pounding continued. I looked through the peephole and saw two men I didn't recognize. Big guys, mid-30s, wearing leather jackets. The kind of guys who collected debts for a living. They weren't here for me. I opened the door, left the screen closed. Help you? You Michael Hawthorne? Yeah. Your son owes some people money. We're here to collect. Don't have a son. The bigger one smiled, not friendly. Yeah, you do. Eric Hawthorne, 27, owes $47,000 to our associates in Atlantic City. We've been trying to locate him for collection purposes. Heard he might be staying here. He's not. You sure about that? Positive. Haven't seen him in days. They looked at each other. The smaller one said, We were told by someone close to the situation, that Eric might show up here, that his old man might help him hide. Then someone gave you bad information. His car's not at his apartment. His wife's not answering her phone. Bank accounts are empty. They're running. We figured they might run to family. I'm not helping them. I'm not hiding them. And I'm not paying their debts. See, that's interesting. The big one leaned against my doorframe. Because we heard, and this is just what we heard, that you're the one who gave us their address, their phone numbers, their work information, almost like you wanted us to find them. I met his eyes. And if I did? He studied me for a long moment. Then he smiled again, this time with something like respect. Am I going to have a problem with you two? Nah, we're just doing our job, collecting debts. Your son's debt is with him, not you. But if you do see him, he pulled out a business card and slid it through the gap in the screen door. You let us know. There's a finder's fee in it. $500 cash. I took the card, looked at it. Number and a name. Tony. I'll keep that in mind. They left. I watched them get into a black SUV and drive away. Then I went back inside, made coffee, and tried to figure out what I was feeling. Satisfaction? Guilt? Rage? Relief? Nothing. I felt nothing. At 9 a.m., Brenda Morrison called. Michael, we need to talk. About? About the fact that the police just called me asking questions about attempted arson, theft, and harassment involving your son and daughter-in-law. I didn't file a report. Someone did. Anonymous tip. Someone called in the attempted arson, included photos that match the ones you sent me, and gave them Eric and Lana's information. Wasn't me. I know it wasn't you, which means someone else knows what's going on, someone who has access to evidence, someone who's escalating this situation beyond your control. I thought about Dan, about Victor, about the property manager, the finance company, the debt collectors, about all the people I'd pulled into this. What do the police want? They want to interview you. They want to see the damage. They want to know if you're pressing charges. And if I say no, they'll probably pursue it anyway. Attempted arson is serious. They're not going to ignore it just because you decline to press charges. When do they want to talk? Today, if possible. I told them I'd check with you first. Michael, you need to decide right now. Are you going to cooperate with this investigation or not? I thought about Eric sitting in that beat-up Honda with his broken hand, about Lana crying on my porch, about them running, hiding, scared, about them learning. I'll cooperate, I said. Tell them I'll be home all day. All right. I'll call you when they give me a time. She hung up. I sat at my kitchen table and waited for the police to come and turn my revenge into something official. The detectives showed up at 2 p.m. Two of them, a man and a woman, both in plain clothes. They showed me badges and asked if they could come in. I let them into the living room. Detective Miller was the man, late 40s, gray at the temples, the look of someone who'd seen everything. Detective Park was the woman younger, sharp-eyed, taking everything in. "Mr. Hawthorne, we received a report about an incident involving attempted arson at this address. Can you walk us through what happened?" I showed them the den. The carpet was still stained despite professional cleaning. The walls still smelled faintly of gasoline. They took photos and notes. "And you believe your son and daughter-in-law did this?" Miller asked. "Yes." "Why?" "Because they robbed me a week ago. Broke into my house, stole family property, tried to sell it. When that didn't work out, they escalated." "Did you file a report about the initial break-in?" "No." "Why not?" "Because he's my son. I stopped. I thought maybe he'd back off if I just showed him there was nothing to steal. I was wrong." "And the attempted arson?" "I found it Saturday. Photographed it. Was planning to report it eventually. But you didn't." "No." "Why not?" I met his eyes. "Because I was handling it myself." Park looked up from her notepad. "Handling it how?" "By making sure they understood there were consequences for their actions." "What kind of consequences?" "I contacted their landlord, their creditors, their employers. I informed people they'd defrauded about their activities. I made sure reality caught up with them." The detectives exchanged glances. "Mr. Hawthorne," Miller said carefully, "that sounds like harassment." "Is it harassment to tell the truth?" "Depends on the intent. My intent was to protect myself and make sure they faced consequences for their crimes. By systematically destroying their lives. By making sure they couldn't hurt me again." Park leaned forward. "Mr. Hawthorne, your son is currently in the hospital with a broken hand and possible internal injuries. He claims he was attacked by debt collectors who found him because someone, possibly you, gave them his location. Is that true?" My stomach dropped. "He's in the hospital?" "You didn't know?" "No, I stopped. He was at my door yesterday. His hand was bandaged, but he was conscious, able to move. I thought—" "You thought what? That it wasn't serious?" "I thought he'd be fine. He collapsed last night from internal bleeding, possibly from a ruptured spleen. He's in surgery right now." The room tilted. I sat down hard on the couch. Is he going to—" "Doctors think he'll survive, but it was close." I put my head in my hands. Miller's voice was gentler now. "Mr. Hawthorne, I understand your son hurt you. I understand you were angry. But what you did, giving his location to violent criminals, that crosses a line. I didn't think— You didn't think they'd hurt him this badly. But you knew they'd hurt him. You wanted them to hurt him." I couldn't speak. Park said, "We're going to need you to come down to the station and give a full statement about the initial break-in, the attempted arson, and your contact with the debt collectors." "Am I under arrest?" "Not yet, but depending on what we find, you could be charged with reckless endangerment, harassment, or accessory to assault." I looked up at them. "He stole from me." "Yes, and he'll face charges for that. But what you did in response, that's on you." They let me drive myself to the station. I called Brenda from the car. "They're saying Eric's in the hospital." "I know, I just heard. Michael, this is bad." "I didn't think—" "I know, but it doesn't matter what you thought. What matters is what happened. You need to cooperate fully. Answer their questions honestly. Do not try to minimize what you did." "What if they charge me?" "Then we deal with it. But right now, let's focus on making sure your son survives." I gave my statement at the station, told them everything: the break-in, the chest, the confrontation at the appraisal shop, the attempted arson, the phone calls I'd made to creditors and employers, everything except the exact details of my conversation with the debt collectors. I didn't mention giving them Eric's address explicitly, but I didn't deny it either. The whole thing took 4 hours. When I finally left, it was dark outside, and I felt hollowed out. Empty. I drove to the hospital,